Jim Channon here in a kind of a summary reflection on 2012, the state of the planet, and what I believe some of the surprises are going to be. I never could imagine that we would ever have an entire world that was so uneducated about its future. Now, in 1900, we never thought we would get off the ground, and you couldn't drive faster than a horse, and there were those kinds of belief limitations. But there was at least a promise in the idea of the tool makers getting their manufacturing together, and that was the capacity builder, which took the entire civilization through 100 years of building connections until the entire planet was connected. It was connected by the air, it was connected by the sea, it was connected by telegraph, telephone, visual, television, movies, music. It was connected. And the hardware needed was giant ships and giant planes and airports, and it was a result of the capacity builder that we know of as the industrial age. Manufacturing, smart tool makers, building engines that did stuff, made stuff. This century, the 21st century, seems like is going to be a complete shift. We have the world connected. There is no reason you couldn't say this world is one world actively right now. The cultures are blended enough, the food is blended enough, the heroes are the same, the sports are similar. You know, we are a large single community. So if we can't go faster, go higher, go farther, all the way to Mars, etc., what is going to be the capacity builder for this century? My guess at the moment, my educated guess, is that it's going to be not that we propel ourselves further and farther, higher and in more connection with communications, but that we actually begin to shift our dimensional reality. In the 20th century, I could say, I'm a man, I'm a soldier, I'm an industrialist, I'm a father, and the roles were very clear and quite small. But I was just one man, one mind, one reality. In this century, I can be the man who is here in my mind as a reality. I can be the voice inside myself, that is my soul, that can speak to me in another way if I ask the right questions, and I all of a sudden have a dual reality there, my present self, earth self, my soul self, my holy self. Then if I make connections with plants energetically and psychically, sort of biopsychically, think about that word a minute, biopsychically, that means we have a psychic relationship with plants. We may not have an information exchange relationship with plants, but we have a psychic relationship with plants. We have a psychic relationship with animals. So all of a sudden, we will be thinking more like plants and animals and humans with a God mind. That's like 4 dimensions all of a sudden. Then the other friends in the galaxy will be coming through, as they are coming through and have been for 30 to 40 years, in what we know of as channels. People from the galaxy don't have to fly here in our mind like in aeroplanes, which we call spaceships. No, all they have to do is shift their frequency and they can come here. We may have been there. They produce a dream world for us, which is a 5th dimension, if you will. That can be a dream world that suggests who we are, what we should worry about, what our opportunities are, what our nature of our relationship with the future could be at a much finer level. Then what you have is what we would call spirit guides or celestials. Now, those are characters that sometimes live with us, came with us into this lifetime, have been responsible for us somewhat in this lifetime, are allowed to nudge us along in various interdimensional ways. Again, thoughts that come into our minds, voices that we might hear, circumstances we run into that are too bizarre to be normal, so we have to go, what does this really mean? So they're essentially coaches which are allowed to coach on anything but giving us the answer to what we're looking for, because they do not want to interfere with our destiny. People in a world like this, it seems, have come for the purpose of growing themselves up. And they have a destiny, but they must do the growing. The celestials and the guides can do the nudging. So right now, depending on how many of those there are, we're already up to 8 or 9 dimensions in the ways we imagine that we are, our being state is complex. Have you heard that phrase lately? No, I'm just complex. Well, we're all complex, but we never thought we had permission to blame it on all those other characters, which we do. And which we are. So the old stories about, you know, the family man and the work family and the ranch family and all those kinds of rather small archetypes are going to get expanded into many more archetypes of a lot of different varieties, and be allowed, by the way, to slide back and forth between one and the other. You know, it used to be that if your mother couldn't understand who you were, or your father didn't know what you were doing, that was a good reason to disown you. I mean, you didn't think like they did, so obviously you made them feel insecure about their feelings, and so then you were persona non grata. Well, hey, it's going to get a lot weirder than that. And hopefully that once we know that we're multidimensional beings, then they can go along with that. We'll all get used to that idea. Then we're going to have to get used to the idea that there are 50 to 70 other civilizations out there in the galaxy. Some have been around a lot longer than we have. By the way, doesn't mean they're any smarter. Many of them claim to have induced us with DNA, 40 kinds more than we had, 100 years ago, and they're waiting to see what we're going to do with that newfound combination of intelligence, because they didn't have it when they approached the time when they were becoming an entire first ever civilization, but we do have that now. So there's that megaverse, the multiverse, the megaverse, and the nature of actually coming to grips with the fact that we are an entity which is following the arc of time through the galaxy in multiple lifetimes, probably where there is no death. That's a silly old idea. It's as old as the golden calf. Come on. I mean, people in those days didn't have anything else they could point to, say that's what it is. It's the magic stone. It's the golden calf. It's the mom. It's the dad. So we're going to have to come to grips with our eternal destiny, tuning into these other dimensions, so we will be playing out our lives in a much more multidimensional way. Okay, enough about the multidimensional stuff, except to say, by the way, it could come upon us very quickly. A lot of people will be shut down as a result of that, perhaps. Although I give people more credit than most. One of the reasons the government decided not to tell us about extraterrestrials is a couple of social scientists said everybody would panic. No, they wouldn't. But they might try to shoot them down, because that's all we ever learned in the movies, which is insane. Don't do that. Yeah, it's not likely that they don't need spaceships to fly around. We think they do because that's how we would do it. So in some cases I have heard pretty convincing stories that people arrived in a spaceship just so that the human being they wanted to talk to wouldn't freak out. Anyway, August 2009, Jim Channon, Go Planet.